Good evening. I'm your host, Matt Bruzas, and alongside me is my special guest co-host for this evening, Austin Dowdall. We ask you to please excuse our momentary interruption of sports from your regular daily schedule. Let's get right into it. With all the big acquisitions the Padres have made in the last 3 years, will the Padres finally have enough talent to top the surging Dodgers to win the West this season?
I definitely think they do. I think this Padres team is going to be a team to be dealt with. I think they have a great offense. They have a top 3 lineup in MLB right now. I think they're a really hot start to the season, but I want to get to their pitching staff and the acquisitions they made there. When they got Blake Snell from the Rays, I think that was a big trade, but then an underrated one is Yu Darvish. I think Yu Darvish is going to be a great number 2 for the Padres, but then even when you look back to the trade deadline last year, they got Mike Clevenger from the Indians. So I think this pitching staff that the Padres have put together is a top-tier pitching staff in the MLB.
But I also think that the Dodgers have put together one of the best pitching staffs in the MLB. Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer, Julio Reyes, the list goes on. They've 3 Cy Young Award winners on that starting rotation. They're proven to be dominant in the NL West, especially winning the pennant 8 years in a row. David Roberts, manager of the year in 2016, has the experience. He knows what to do in those situations. And I think that this is a team that is very underrated defensively. They have 2 Gold Glovers in the outfield, and Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts as well. I think the defense is underrated for the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers do have a great defense, and they do have a great pitching staff, like you were saying. I think one of the best moves that the Dodgers did was getting David Price to get that experience in there from that left-hander. But going back to the Padres, I think the Padres still have the best pitching staff, but when you look at their infield as well, I think they have one of the best infields in all of baseball, defensively and offensively. When you look at Eric Hosmer at first base, he's swinging a hot bat, and I think he's going to be important for this team going down the stretch to get those RBIs when Tatis Jr. and when Machado get on base. Yeah,
one of the Will Myers of the San Diego Padres, he mentioned earlier that when Fernando Tatis, now on a 10-day DL with his dislocated shoulder, that this is not the team in 2019 when they went under 500 in the time that Tatis missed. This is a team that's got a lot of firepower and a lot of depth.
Yeah, and even the Dodgers, you look at their World Series last year, that Blake Snell, who is now on the Padres, doesn't get pulled in that controversial part of the game. I think we have a different World Series champion, and it's the Rays. So I don't think this Dodgers team is poised to make a pennant run, and I also think they're not going to make it out of the NL West. I think that's definitely going to be the Padres.
I think the NL West is going to be tough this year, but I think the Dodgers make it out because of the depth that they have, the experience they have. I think the Dodgers are just too much for teams. Mookie Betts, I think Trevor Bauer, the addition of him, I think is really a great addition to this team. I think they do a lot. I think they've done a lot in the offseason, and they've added to a team that won the World Series. And a lot of people forget the Dodgers actually won that series. Maybe it's over controversial, but they still won, and the Dodgers are right back in that conversation again this season, and they've only improved from here with the additions they've made.
That's a good point, but when you look at their starting rotation, Trevor Bauer's off to a slow start so far in 2021, and if that trend continues, then you look at Clayton Kershaw, who is getting up there in age, and maybe you might see a decline coming this year. And then when you look at Walker Buehler, I think he is their best starting pitcher, and I just don't think that Walker Buehler is a good enough starting pitcher to be the best pitcher on the staff that's going to come out of this West.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think the one weakness where I would like to see where the Padres could improve on is in their bullpen. But on the flip side, the Dodgers have one of the best bullpens with Jansen being a reliever of the year, or Knebel being a top of his game, and especially with Price in the bullpen coming in relief. But next up, the busy offseason of the New England Patriots. We'll be right back here with more PEOMIOSFYRDS. Please excuse this commercial break.
Warhawks know what it takes to become champions. At the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, our student athletes pursue excellence with a determination that inspires everyone on campus. Warhawks are smart. Warhawks are strong. Warhawks value service. We prepare our student athletes for life after college. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Come be part of the Warhawk family.
UWW-TV has been an important part of the campus and community since 1980.
Not only providing on-air learning opportunities for broadcast journalists and electronic media production students,
but educating and entertaining our audiences with award-winning news, live sports coverage, original programming,
as well as dedicating the mission to developing creative collaborations throughout campus.
For more information, visit our website, our 24/7 stream, and like us on Facebook.
Check us out because you gotta see what's on UWW-TV.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
Here at UW Whitewater Intramural Sports, we have a motto: a sport for everyone and everyone in a sport.
Come on! Stepped it anyways. Oh, she got that off. They're gonna count it.
Had a blast. Always have fun at intramurals.
Every day we strive to go above and beyond that goal by providing healthy exercise, promoting leisure education, and giving students that competitive atmosphere they are looking for.
Yes! Yes!
It's exciting. Brings me back to those high school days with Friday Night Lights.
With our 25 different intramural sports offered, we guarantee that we have a sport for you. Go to our website and find your sport today.
While paper facial coverings can only be used once, other facial coverings should be washed after every use to reduce the risk of spreading germs. Some facial coverings can be laundered, but washing them with soap and water in the bathroom is also an effective and efficient method for disinfecting. The students shown here wore their facial covering until they entered the bathroom, thoroughly washed it with dish soap and water, and brought it to their room to air dry. Always allow your mask to dry completely before reuse. If you do not have dish soap at your disposal, please use the provided hand soap in the community bathrooms.
Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule. The Patriots have made a big splash this offseason, signing a lot of players like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Will the Patriots make a comeback this year and make it to the playoffs?
I think they very well could. This is a great team. They've done a lot. They also had 8 players sit out the last season, and it was Chung and Dante Hightower. Those guys are key players to their defense, and adding those guys to the offense, I think the Patriots are almost there, and I do not think they are there, and that's because the AFC is way too hard, and I do not think they are beating the Bills. I think their biggest problem is Cam Newton, the uncertainty at the quarterback position. I don't think that Cam Newton is the starting quarterback by the end of the year. I bet the Patriots are going to draft a quarterback. I think Justin Fields, and I think that the uncertainty at the quarterback position is what's going to be the problem for the Patriots, but I think they have a bright future looking forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they can do a lot with the number 15th overall pick, but I do think Cam Newton is the present, and they're going to roll with him right now. He's on a one-year deal, so it's low risk, high reward. This is a former MVP in 2015, and this Patriots team looks a lot like the 2015 Panthers team when Cam won the MVP. Had a good offensive line, had playmakers around him, and had wide receivers that could make plays and catch the ball. Cam Newton really isn't the best pocket passer when you get down to it, but he can make the throws, but they're not going to be always accurate. And so if these wide receivers can catch at can catch the ball and be playmakers, they can let Cam Newton do his thing when he won the MVP in 2015. That was him running the ball. That was him getting yards with his feet. And I think this Patriots team can do a lot, especially with the weapons they've added on offense, with Kendrick Bourne, with the 2 tight ends. And especially when you look back on the 2015, Cam Newton's favorite target was Greg Olsen. So I think that this team can make the playoff push.
I do like the 2 tight end system. I think it's been successful. It's successful in the past for the Patriots. But when you look at the AFC, it's just way too hard. You're looking at the AFC North when you have Baltimore, Browns, and Steelers all come out of there last year. And then you look and the Colts are had a good year. Tennessee had a good year. I think there's just not enough wild card spots for the Patriots to get it. And don't get me wrong, I think the Patriots are going to be good, but when you look at their division, there's no way that they are getting past the Bills. And granted, they do get to play. They do get to play the Dolphins and the Jets twice this year, but I just don't think they have the firepower at the quarterback position in order to push them over the Bills. And I just don't think that there's enough room for them to get a wild card spot.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the AFC is really tough, but I think they can do it. They were 7-9 last year, and 3 teams made it from the AFC North. Like you mentioned, Bills. Like you mentioned, the Steelers, Browns, and the Ravens. So maybe that could be the AFC East this year with the Dolphins making moves. I think they're going to be a really good team. I think the Bills win the division, and so maybe the Patriots squeak into that 6th seed. But you're going to have a lot of teams take a step back. I think the Steelers may dip a little bit, but I think that's the only team that really hasn't done any moves in free agency to make themselves better. But again, the Patriots have done a lot defensively, and that's where they gave up a lot. And I mean, they were in a lot of games last season too. Like the game in Seattle came down to a last second run by Cam Newton. He got stuffed at the end zone, didn't make it. That's a loss. And so maybe if they can turn 4 or 5 games around into the win column, they can get in.
Yeah, I do like what you're saying, but that 6th spot, it's going to be real tough for them. But I do have to agree that the Dolphins are going to look a lot better this year. But you just look at this AFC. I'm not even mentioning teams like the Raiders who had a down year, and I think Derek Carr is going to have a bounce back year. They're making moves to help their defense. This is another team that's going to be pushing for a wild card spot. And I think the Broncos with Drew Lock are even going to make a push this year because he's going to have that year to show who he really is.
And again, I think it's all because we hail the Kansas City Chiefs in that division. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets are the ultimate super team, and then no sport in WWE. We'll be right back with more PEOMIOSFYRDS.
On. Flip them off. 91.7 WSUW. 91.7 is a student-run radio station serving the Whitewater area with a variety of original programs, live sports broadcasting, community events, and more. So turn us on. 91.7 FM. Or stream us live at 917theedge.com.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
As an Army ROTC cadet at Whitewater, you have the opportunity to develop into a great leader while learning and applying the Army values to your everyday life. Within ROTC, you have the chance to travel overseas in the CULP program to train with other militaries, attend many elite Army schools such as Airborne and Combat Diver, and you have the opportunity to attend conferences and guest lectures by some of the Army's top-ranking officers. Our Warhawk cadets participate in many extracurricular activities, Division III sports, Greek life, intramural sports, among many other team building and community service events. Being a cadet at Whitewater is more than just being part of the Army. It's also about being active members in our community and coming together to form a family atmosphere. Anyone who wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves while developing themselves professionally should consider UW Whitewater ROTC. To sign up for UW Whitewater ROTC, go to the 4th floor of McCutcheon Hall to room 417.
For the health and safety of those living on campus, all residence hall water fountains have been turned off. However, the refill component remains active, so students can fill up their water bottles hands-free.
Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule. The Brooklyn Nets have acquired big names this year to its already stacked super team. Are the Brooklyn Nets basically guaranteed to win the NBA Finals this year?
I would have to say yes to that, Matt, and I wouldn't say that's because of their roster, because I do think the Los Angeles Lakers have the best roster in the NBA. But when you look at it, then the Brooklyn Nets are coming out of the East, which looks super easy this year. There's a drop-off after the 3 seed. But then when you look at the West, because AD and LeBron are out, when they get healthy and get into the playoffs, they're going to have to play all these good teams because they've dropped in the standings. So when I see that, I think either the Lakers won't even make it out of the West, or they're going to be so beaten down by having to play all these good teams that this is going to be an easy win for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I'm going to actually disagree. I think the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know if they can exist. KD hasn't played much since February 13th. He's just getting back from his hamstring injury. And, you know, you've picked up pieces where they were like Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. Those pieces really haven't been at their full potential in a couple years. You know, maybe they can have a fresh start in Brooklyn, but again, I don't think that they have. I think the playoffs are too unexpected where these teams, like if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks last year, like they were title favorites and they lost in the second round and lost to Miami Heat in 5. I think that it's very unpredictable what the playoffs can do, and I think the East has a lot of depth this year. Even if you look at the Celtics, they're in the 7th spot, and they have 2 very proficient scorers in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think those 2 guys could cause problems for the Nets in the first round.
Yeah, that's a good point, but what I do like from this Nets team is I like Kyrie Irving on this team. He has the experience to win the championship. I know he doesn't have the same experience that LeBron does with LA, but my biggest point for this is that they have KD and Kyrie who have the experience. They're not just a bunch of guys out there who don't know what it takes. They are hungry. They have the experience, and I think they have one of the best rosters in the NBA. And plus, they have an easy road. I have to disagree with you. I think they have an easy road to the finals. And then it's after that is when it can get dicey. But I think because of how good the West is, the team that comes out of there, whether it be the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Suns, I think they're going to be beat up. And I don't think they're going to be able to beat this stacked Nets team.
I don't know if the Suns can go far in the playoffs, but holy cow, if they played really past expectations. Devin Booker and Chris Paul have been such a dynamic duo, and then you add DeAndre Ayton down in the post. I think they could make it far into the playoffs, especially with how Chris Paul is playing, his leadership. Devin Booker is going off. He's putting up MVP-like numbers. I think they could be a real challenge in the West. But again, the Clippers and Lakers are going to prove out to be the favorites in the West, and then the Clippers may present the biggest challenge to the Nets because of their defense with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And especially with Montrezl Harrell coming, giving them being a big man down low. I think they could really present a challenge to the Nets.
I think that's a good point, but they don't have enough defenders to cover the Nets. When you look at it, Kawhi's probably going on KD, and Paul George is then going to go on Kyrie. That leaves that leaves James Harden open with not as good a defender as that. So I think that's what presents the biggest issue for any team facing the Nets, is that big three could be the best player on 70% of the NBA teams right now if they were by themselves on that team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they obviously they're a super team, but I don't think they can't be beat. I think even if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, I think they've brought in some nice pieces. Drew Holiday and Jeff Teague, a good backup point guard. Now, obviously not where he was years ago, but he still can produce. I think Drew Holiday's having a career year from three, and especially for Drew Holiday taking pressure off Giannis, I think that could be the recipe for a defeat for the Brooklyn Nets. But next up, sports media coverage of the WWE. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
At the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, we're passionate about learning. Our talented faculty members blend teaching with research, creating hands-on learning experiences for students. Warhawk Pride thrives at UW-Whitewater, where student-athletes excel on the field and in the classroom, where diversity is celebrated. A tradition of excellence. Find your passion here.
Video One Media Services provides accomplished students the opportunity to enhance their college experience by working with real-world clients. In addition, we provide clients local and affordable video options to better enhance their media needs. For more information on how Video One Media Services can help you with your next media project, email or call our office at 262-472-5659.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
Practicing social distancing is imperative to maintaining safety in the residence halls this year in lounges and common areas. For kitchens and laundry rooms, we have capped occupancy at 2 students in these spaces at any given time. Students will not be allowed to wait for their laundry in the laundry rooms, and if 2 students are already in the space switching laundry, please wait outside for one to leave. We ask that those using these spaces are efficient with their time, so all students have the option to use the common areas as needed. We thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule. The WWE still gets coverage by sports media networks like ESPN and Fox, even though the fights are predetermined. Should the WWE still get any coverage at all sports medias?
I don't think so, Matt, because when you look at it, it's in the name. When they gave up the name WWF to WWE, that E standing for entertainment, they're basically giving it up that it's not a sport. They're out there predetermined fights, like you said. They know who the winner is, but then my biggest problem is WWE's been going downhill since different promotions have come up, like AEW. I think the biggest problem with the WWE is they don't have that superstar anymore. They still ride the coattails of the Undertaker to this day because he is their biggest guy. When you look at some of these guys' gimmicks, like Elias, he goes out there and he plays a guitar and does his own walk-up song. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something you want to see from a wrestling match.
I would agree with that, but I think they still should cover it because there's a market for it and people want to know what happened. And it's sports entertainment. And so if you're sports media, I think it's part of that where like some people still want to know what happens. But I think that it's just as much as professional sports. Like these wrestlers put a lot of effort into matches and in promotions. And especially they have superstars like Randy Orton and Edge who are still drawing viewers and drawing attention. And so I think that is a great point in the WWE's favor. I think they do a great job of still maintaining their relevance, even with AEW and other wrestling gimmicks like that. Thank you for watching this week's of PEOMIOSFYRDS, and tune in next time to hear all the more hot takes from all around the world of sports. This has been Please Excuse Our Momentary Interruption of Sports from your regular daily schedule on UWW-TV.